Sometimes the most dangerous man in the room isn't the one shouting orders. It's the one silently watching, waiting, hiding a power no one expects. In one of the most feared prisons in the region, there was a man everyone called the King. He ruled with an iron fist, his word was law, and no one dared to challenge him. Until a new inmate walked through those gates. From the moment Qingyun stepped into the courtyard, eyes followed him. Whispers spread. The king smirked, certain this quiet newcomer would soon learn his place. But what no one knew was that Qingyun wasn't just another prisoner. He was a storm waiting to be unleashed. If you love stories full of shocking twists, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's about to happen next. The king wasted no time making his move. Surrounded by his gang, he approached Qingyun with a grin that dripped with arrogance. "You eat what I give you," he sneered, tossing a handful of dirty grass into Qingyun's bowl. Laughter erupted from the crowd. To the king, it was a show, a reminder to everyone of who held power here. But Qingyun didn't react the way they expected. He looked at the food, then calmly at the king, his silence sharper than any insult. That only made the king's temper boil hotter. "Do you know who I am?" the king barked, shoving him hard. "I'm the boss here. You do as I say." Still, Qingyun's eyes didn't flinch, and deep inside the king felt something strange, something that told him this man might not be as weak as he looked. Later that day, in a shadowed corner of the prison, the king met with his closest enforcers. Their voices were low, but their intentions deadly. "He cut off my income," the king growled. "Today, I'll kill him." One of the men leaned closer, a sly grin on his face. "Why kill him now? We can make more money first." "Let him fight in the underground ring. Everyone will bet against him. We'll make a fortune before he's finished." Another thug chuckled. "And if he gets hurt bad in the fight, even better. We profit, and we keep our hands clean." The king's eyes narrowed. It was cruel, it was risky, but it was genius. "Fine. Set it up. Qingyun's going to lose, and we'll make sure word spread fast through the prison underworld." The fight was on, and the stakes were high. The king's allies began whispering to the wealthy gamblers outside, especially the infamous Jin family, known for their obsession with betting on blood. "Put everything on the newcomer losing," they were told. "He won't last a round." The Jins agreed without hesitation. To them, Qingyun was nothing but easy money, a lamb being led to slaughter. But in the silence of his cell, Qingyun sat cross-legged, eyes closed, his mind sharp, his body steady. He wasn't thinking about losing. He was thinking about survival and justice. The deal was sealed, and the cruelty behind it couldn't be more obvious. To these men, life was just another currency, something to be traded, gambled, and discarded without a second thought. One of the king's men laughed coldly. "Better to bleed him dry in the ring than waste a bullet. At least this way, we get paid." Qingyun overheard fragments of their conversation. He didn't react, but inside, a quiet fire burned hotter. They saw him as nothing more than a pawn. They didn't realize he was about to flip the board entirely. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like and share. It helps more people find these epic twists. The night of the fight arrived. The underground arena roared with shouts, bets, and the metallic smell of blood lingering in the air. Under the harsh glare of the lights, Qingyun stepped into the ring. Across from him stood his opponent, a towering, scarred fighter with a reputation for ending matches in seconds. The king leaned against the cage, smiling like a man who had already won. "Tonight," he muttered to himself, "the newcomer dies." Qingyun's eyes locked on his opponent, calm, unshaken, every muscle in his body ready to explode into action. The bell rang, and the battle for life and death began. From the very first exchange, it was clear this wasn't going to be the slaughter everyone expected. Qingyun moved with precision, dodging heavy blows by inches, his counterattacks sharp and deliberate. Every strike carried the weight of years of discipline, every step placed with purpose. The crowd began to shift from mocking laughter to uneasy murmurs. Even the king's smirk faltered as he realized this man was no amateur. A flash of footwork, a perfectly timed strike, and the so-called unbeatable opponent staggered back, clutching his side in pain. For the first time that night, the odds didn't seem so certain. Then, chaos struck. From the corner of his eye, Qingyun caught sight of another fighter being dragged into the arena. Bruised, limping, and barely able to stand, it was his own brother. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the announcer mocked, "Seems family reunions happen even in the ring." Qingyun froze for a split second. Memories flashed. Promises made, promises broken. His brother's eyes burned with both pain and resentment. "You abandoned us," he spat, voice shaking. "I hate you." The king's plan had just turned far darker. Now it wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight that could tear a family apart. The arena's noise faded into a distant hum as Qingyun locked eyes with his brother. "I never abandoned you," Qingyun said, his voice steady but pained. "I've been fighting to protect you this whole time." His brother shook his head, refusing to believe. "Then prove it. Save me. Before they kill me." The king's men jeered from outside the cage, feeding the tension. This wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about breaking Qingyun from the inside out. Qingyun stepped forward, placing himself between his brother and the approaching fighter. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "No one is going to touch you while I'm standing." The opponent lunged, aiming straight for Qingyun's brother. In a blur of motion, Qingyun intercepted, his strikes fueled by something deeper than survival, honor, loyalty, and a burning need to protect what was left of his family. Blow after blow landed with surgical precision. The crowd roared, but Qingyun's focus never wavered. Every movement was calculated, every counterattack designed to end the threat quickly. The king's confident grin had vanished completely. This was no longer the easy spectacle he had planned. It was turning into a disaster for his bets and his pride. Qingyun wasn't just fighting to win, he was fighting to send a message. "You don't get to decide the fate of my blood." The fight raged on until the final, decisive moment. With a swift combination, Qingyun unleashed a strike so powerful it sent his opponent crashing to the ground, unable to rise. Silence gripped the arena for a heartbeat, and then erupted into chaos. The referee raised Qingyun's hand high. Winner of the battle of the century. The gamblers who had bet against him cursed under their breath, and the king's face twisted with rage. What was supposed to be a guaranteed loss had turned into a humiliating defeat. Qingyun didn't raise his fists in celebration. He turned instead to his brother, making sure he was still standing, still breathing. The victory meant nothing if his family wasn't safe. Outside the ring, panic rippled through the crowd of high-stakes bettors. The Jin family's smug expressions melted into fury as they realized the money they'd poured into Qingyun's defeat had vanished. The king's allies shouted, demanding answers, while the director, the one who had orchestrated it all, slipped away into the shadows, hoping to avoid the wrath of those he had promised a sure win. But there was no hiding the truth. The plan had failed spectacularly. Not only had Qingyun survived, he had humiliated them in front of everyone, and humiliation in their world was often punished more severely than any loss of money. As the chaos unfolded outside the ring, Qingyun's composure remained unshaken. He straightened his stance, his breathing calm, his eyes sharper than ever. The fighters who had once mocked him now watched in wary silence. They had seen enough to know this man was no ordinary brawler. In a rare moment of vulnerability, one of the king's men muttered, "He's a real master, we never stood a chance." Qingyun rolled his shoulders, the subtle movements revealing the controlled power of someone trained in disciplines few could name and even fewer could master. This wasn't just victory, this was a revelation. With his enemies closing in, Qingyun decided it was time to end this on his own terms. He shifted his stance and suddenly, the air around him felt heavier, charged with intent. In the blink of an eye, he unleashed a seamless flow of techniques, the explosive strikes of Bajiquan, the fluid footwork of Baguazhang, the rooted power of Hunga, the lightning-fast punches of Wing Chun, and even the precision thrusts of the Ime spear style. Each move was executed with deadly grace, leaving no doubt that he had mastered them all. The crowd was speechless. The king's men, once so eager to attack, now hesitated, realizing they were standing before a warrior who could dismantle them in seconds. With the arena frozen in silence, Qingyun's eyes locked on the last man who dared to stand against him, the king himself. They circled each other, tension crackling in the air. Then, in a sudden burst, Qingyun closed the distance, delivering a final, bone-shattering strike that sent the king crashing to the ground. No words were needed. The message was clear. The reign of terror was over. Qingyun turned to his brother, extending a hand. "It's over. You're safe now." As they walked away together, the crowd still stunned, Qingyun knew this wasn't just a fight won. It was justice served. If you enjoyed this story of courage and retribution, make sure you've liked, shared, and subscribed. There are many more twists to come.